Kelly Owen's life was built upon order, dedication, and an unwavering sense of responsibility. As an active heart surgeon, she wielded the scalpel, her hands having saved countless lives from the brink of death. The white coat was her armor, and the clinic was her kingdom. The neatly arranged medical instruments, the faint smell of disinfectant, and the rhythmically beeping machines all formed a predictable and logical world under her control. Yet, even in that perfectly controlled world, there was one unpredictable variable. Her younger sister Nicole, a gift left by their parents, born 14 years apart, and the only wound in Kelly's life that would never heal. On that day, Kelly had just finished a difficult surgery and was finally able to take a breath. She glanced at the family photograph on her desk, her young self smiling awkwardly alongside their deceased parents and little Nicole. The window outside was filled with the serene afternoon light of the American West Coast. As she was checking her schedule for the upcoming week, her hands suddenly stopped. The words "Nicole's wedding" were marked in red on the calendar. She had yet to hear a specific date. It was about time to decide on the details and adjust her busy schedule as a doctor. Picking up the receiver, she dialed the number. "Hello, Nicole. It's your sister. Is this a good time?" Kelly. "What's up?" "I'm a bit busy right now," came Nicole's voice through the phone, laced with the usual affection and a hint of irritation. Kelly brushed it off and calmly got to the point. "I'm sorry. It's about your wedding. I think we need to set a date soon. Otherwise, I won't be able to adjust my work shifts. Is the venue reservation going smoothly?" There was a brief silence on the other end. To Kelly, it felt like a strange pause. "Wedding? Oh, well." Nicole replied nonchalantly, as if discussing the weather with an acquaintance on the street. "I had it yesterday. Just a small ceremony with family. It was wonderful, really." "Huh? Yesterday? You had it?" The words drifted in Kelly's mind without forming meaning. "Just family? Was she not part of that family?" "Oh, I didn't mention that. Sorry, it slipped my mind because I've been a bit swamped." A malicious and cruel laugh leaked over the phone. From the other side, another familiar voice was heard. "It was my brother, Tom." "Nicole, isn't this cruel for you?" he said, though his voice contained laughter. "He was there too. He was an accomplice in this cruel charade." "I see. That's great to hear. Congratulations, Nicole. Well, then, goodbye." Kelly carefully placed the receiver down, ensuring her voice did not tremble. It required far more control than when suturing an aorta. The small click echoed in the examination room like a signal for the end of the world. She sat still for a moment, staring straight ahead. The small seed of doubt that had taken root in her heart for years had now transformed into the ugly monster of certainty, beginning to consume her soul. On the day her parents suddenly left this world, Kelly had vowed to become a substitute parent for this child. Sacrificing much of her youth, love, and leaps in her career, she worked like a draft horse to pay for Nicole's education so she could live without any hardships. She became the guarantor for her first apartment and took on the debts of her brother Tom, who had failed in business, all driven by the single thought of, because we are family. However, for Nicole, Kelly was not a substitute motherly sister. She was merely a convenient cash cow, a wallet that treats her to expensive dinners, a bank to appeal to when she was late on rent payments. And Tom, who sensed this fact yet remained a complacent older brother who indulged his younger sister, always stood by Nicole's side. In his eyes, Kelly's devotion was merely seen as a natural obligation. Kelly slowly stood up and gazed out the window. A single tear fell quietly from her eye. But that tear quickly dried, and a cold, icy light began to dwell deep within her eyes. "I see. You say you never mentioned it." She returned to her desk and picked up a photo frame of her deceased parents. She whispered toward the photo in a barely audible voice. "Mom, Dad, I seem to have been wrong. I completely misunderstood how to show love. But it's ending now. From this moment today, she gently set down the photo frame and took out a notebook from the desk drawer. It contained all the records of the family's assets and contracts, her personal ledger, the rental guarantee for the apartment under Nicole's name, the co-guarantor for the loan set up as working capital for Tom's company. She methodically lists all of these with a cold gaze. The plan for revenge quickly takes shape. It is not the manifestation of emotional anger. Like a surgeon identifying a problematic area and constructing the optimal removal procedure, it is calm, precise, and devoid of any compassion. A complete plan. John? This is Kelly. I have an urgent request. She picks up the receiver and dials John, the skilled lawyer who has managed the Owen family's assets for many years. Yes, that's right. Regarding the Owen Family Trust Fund. I want to change the beneficiaries. No, initiate a complete freeze immediately. Her voice was cold and as strong as steel, unlike the person she was when speaking with Nicole earlier. Surgeon Kelly Owen is now commencing the most precise operation of her life. The purpose of this operation is not to save lives. It is to completely excise the tumor known as family that has infested her life like a parasite. John Miller immediately sensed the unusual tone in Kelly's voice. Having served as the legal advisor for the Owen family for over 20 years, he knew how calm and composed she was. When she used the word urgent, it carried its literal meaning. Kelly, what happened? It's not like you to sound this way. I'll explain the details later, John. For now, just follow my instructions. First, freeze the trust fund with Nicole Owen as the beneficiary immediately. Make sure not a single cent can be withdrawn. Next, regarding the commercial loan to Tom Owen, for which I am the co-guarantor, please contact the bank and proceed with the immediate release of my guarantee. Recheck the contract. There should be clauses that allow for release. John was astonished as he typed on his keyboard. Nicole and Tom, Kelly's younger brother and sister whom she had supported diligently over the years. Now she is intending to sever their lifelines herself. Understood. I'll get on it right away. What about your personal assets? What about the family card that Nicole is using? That too. I'll call the card company right away and have it suspended due to loss. I won't be requesting a reissue. And then, regarding the rental contract for the condominium where Nicole is living, please send a notification of termination of the guarantor contract via registered mail. She will not be allowed to renew it. Kelly's instructions were rapid fire, but there was no hesitation. It was as if she was accurately conveying the steps of a surgical procedure to her assistant, precise and to the point. John realized that her resolve was unwavering. Understood. I'll complete all arrangements by the end of business today. But Kelly, do you really understand what you are trying to do? This is a declaration of war. Yes, I understand. This is a war. And I didn't start it. After hanging up, Kelly contacted her personal bank's account manager next. She ordered a review of her complex asset portfolio and the suspension of all automatic transfers, particularly those related to Nicole and Tom. The manager seemed to struggle to gauge the intent behind her orders, while still showing respect for the voice on the line. But Kelly refused to provide any explanations. In her mind, the next steps were already mapped out. The economic blockade was merely the first phase. What Nicole feared the most was not poverty. It was the facade of the happy bride that she had built up being stripped away in front of the public. A few days later, a call came into Kelly's clinic. When the receptionist relayed the name of the caller through the intercom, she broke into a cold smile. Nicole's fiancé, Brian Simpson. A sincere and slightly old-fashioned, capable engineer from a software company. Kelly liked him. And she also knew that he was completely unaware of Nicole's true nature. Mr. Simpson, hello? This is Kelly. Congratulations on your sister's marriage the other day. Ah, Dr. Owen. Thank you. Actually, I wanted to discuss something regarding that. Would it be all right if I came by the clinic today? Brian's voice conveyed confusion and some kind of determination. Yes, of course. I'll be waiting. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Brian appeared in Kelly's office as promised. In his hand, he held a high-quality paper envelope. His expression was tense, and his eyes showed that he was deeply troubled by something. I apologize for interrupting your busy schedule. No, it's fine. Please, have a seat. Is there something bothering you? Kelly, knowing everything, perfectly wore the mask of a compassionate doctor. Brian seemed to muster his courage and spoke up. Actually, it's about Nicole. After the wedding, I've noticed she's been acting a bit strange. I've come to realize a side of her financial sensibility that I wasn't aware of, and it's confusing me a bit. Financial sensibility, you say? Yes. Our honeymoon is planned for Bora Bora in Tahiti. The cost is quite high, but Nicole says, my sister arranged everything, so there's nothing to worry about. To be honest, I feel a bit uncomfortable with that. I told her it felt like a burden for you given your own life, but she just laughed and said, my sister is a doctor, so she's wealthy. This is nothing. Kelly quietly listened to his words, realizing for the first time that Nicole intended to make Kelly bear the costs of their honeymoon. He suppressed the anger that almost reached its boiling point with iron will. And also, the costs for the wedding. She said she covered most of the payments with your credit card. Even when I offered to pay, she wouldn't listen, saying, this is a gift from family. Really? Did you cover everything? Brian, Kelly said, calling his name. That voice was that of a doctor revealing the truth. Do I look like I am deceiving you? Brian looked into Kelly's straight eyes and shook his head. No. That's exactly why I came here. Kelly took out several documents from the desk drawer. These included a history of fraudulent charges on cards made by Nicole prepared by John and details of loans that Kelly had been covering. This is part of the statement for the last 6 months, which Nicole paid for using my card. It's from after you started dating. Look. Luxury brand bags, aesthetics, lavish dinners with her friends. The total easily exceeds $50,000. Of course, all of it was used without my permission. Brian took the documents in his hand, and his face gradually went pale. Unbeknownst to him, his beloved fiancée was trampling on his sister's goodwill and indulging in luxury. And the cost of the wedding. Venue deposits, dress costs, catering. All of them were paid for with my card. I only found out about it just the other day when she called to say that the wedding ended yesterday. No way. She told me that the teacher was too busy to attend the wedding, but sincerely congratulated us. I wasn't even invited. It was a decisive statement. Blood completely drained from Brian's face. It was the moment when everything he believed about Nicole was proven to be a lie. He sank onto the sofa as if struck, covering his face. What a thing. I knew nothing. I was completely deceived by her. I don't intend to blame you, Brian. You are a victim. Nicole has a genius talent for manipulating people. I too was unaware of it for over 60 years. While sympathizing with him, Kelly moved on to the next stage of her plan. It is up to you to decide how to think about your future with her. However, if you wish to know the truth, I will not hesitate to help. Lawyer John is compiling all the evidence. Brian remained still for a while, but eventually looked up. In his eyes were sorrow, anger, and a single determination. He offered the envelope he had to Kelly. This is a check that Nicole handed to me saying it's a congratulatory gift from my sister. It probably came from the teacher's money as well. I'm returning it. And I'm calling off the wedding. Kelly did not accept the check. No, Brian. You should take that. You have also been hurt in time and heart by her lies. Please think of it as compensation. However, not from me, but from Nicole herself. It is the last gift drawn from her trust fund through legitimate procedures. Brian had yet to know the cold, perfectly legal calculation behind those words. After Brian left, Kelly's clinic was once again enveloped in silence. However, it was the calm before the storm. Kelly had accurately predicted when she would receive contact from Nicole. It would be when Nicole realized that she couldn't finalize the first-class ticket to Bora Bora and her hotel suite reservation was canceled due to insufficient deposit. As expected, that evening, her smartphone screen flickered manically with Nicole's name displayed. After ignoring the call a few times, Kelly slowly pressed the call button as if she had just noticed it. "Kelly, what is going on? My card isn't working." The voice coming from the other end was a shrill cry filled with panic and anger. Gone was the act of the spoiled little sister. "Oh, really? That's troubling. Have you tried contacting the card company?" Kelly replied in a calm voice, as if she were reading a research paper. "I did. They said it was stopped because a loss report was filed." "That was your doing, wasn't it? Why would you do something like this?" "It ruins our honeymoon." "Our honeymoon, you say?" "Nicole, I wasn't invited to your wedding. Why would I have any obligation to pay for your honeymoon?" "What did you say? Moreover, that card is mine. If I think it's lost, it's only natural for me to stop it, right? Is there a problem with that?" Nicole was momentarily at a loss for words at the logical and perfect counterargument. But soon, she launched into a hysterical retort. "That's terrible. How cruel. You know how much I've been looking forward to this trip. You always do this. You think you're the only one who's right and look down on me. Just because you have money, you think you can do whatever you want." Speaking of money, Nicole, are you properly paying the rent for the apartment you live in? I've yet to receive any delinquency notice as your guarantor. Those words struck a nerve with Nicole. With her income, it was utterly impossible for her to pay the rent for that apartment. It was only with Kelly's financial support that her extravagant lifestyle was sustained. "What do you mean by that?" "I have terminated the guarantor contract as of today. You won't be able to renew it, so you will need to leave within a month. Oh, and about the trust fund you inherited from your father. Unfortunately, there have been some operational issues, and it seems the lawyer has frozen it for investigation. It looks like you won't be able to withdraw a single cent for a while." "What? No way. How am I supposed to live without you?" "That's something you will have to figure out on your own from now on. You're already a married and capable adult. Discuss it well with your husband." Kelly purposefully mentioned Brian's name, knowing it would deliver the final psychological blow to Nicole. "Brian is..." Nicole's voice trembled faintly. "Do you know where he is?" "He won't answer his phone." "I don't know. But he was at my clinic just a few hours ago. He's quite an intelligent person. It seems he has the ability to see the truth of things." On the other end of the phone, Nicole gasped, realizing that her lie had been exposed to the one person she least wanted to know. "Kelly, please, help me. I was wrong. I am sorry. So, just one more time. Apology? That's fine. But shouldn't the priority be finding a new place to live?" "Well then, I'm busy, so I'll hang up now." Kelly unilaterally cut off Nicole's pleading voice, ending the call. Then she dialed the clinic's reception. "From now on, do not connect any calls from Nicole Owen and Tom Owen to me. Please inform them that all urgent matters must go through lawyer John." The physical boundaries had already been drawn. The clinic's door, the locks of her home. They had already become fortifications to protect her sanctuary. A few days later, while Kelly was tending to the herbs in her garden at home, a familiar car parked roughly outside the gate. It was her brother, Tom, who got out. His face was flushed with anger. "Kelly, what do you think you are doing? Nicole is a mess because of you," Tom yelled while shaking the gate. Kelly slowly stood up, still holding the pruning shears, and walked towards him. "Tom, please don't raise your voice. It's disrespectful to the neighbors." "You care about the neighbors? My sister is about to be left out on the street. Do you have no blood or tears? Where has the you who has dedicated so many years to the family gone? That so-called family seems to have forgotten to send an invitation to my wedding somewhere along the way, hasn't it?" At Kelly's calm remark, Tom was momentarily at a loss for words. That was. Nicole thought of you, thinking you were busy with work and didn't want to bother you. Thinking of me? On the most important day of my sister's life, the one I raised as a parent for 20 years? Don't you find that excuse yourself ridiculous? Kelly looked coldly at Tom over the gate. You were enjoying the wedding too, weren't you, Tom? You were relishing a happy time with the family while I wasn't there. You don't intend to include me in that family anymore, do you? If that's the case, then I will also keep you all out of my inheritance. I think that's very fair, don't you? What do you mean by stopping the loans for my company? Without that, we will go bankrupt by next month. That's a problem. But that's your problem, not mine. You are a businessman, aren't you? You should find a solution yourself. You devil. Tom hurled insults, but Kelly's expression did not change at all. A woman appeared behind her, looking concerned. It was Diane, who lived next door. She had also suffered from financial troubles with her family and had become a good confidant for Kelly. Kelly, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine, Diane. It's just a lost dog barking. Those words completely shattered Tom's pride. He glared at Kelly for a while, but eventually got into his car with curses and drove away at high speed. Really, what a horrible thing to say, Diane said. I just stated the facts, Kelly replied, resuming her pruning of the herbs. If you don't cut off the rotten branches, the whole tree will get sick. There was no longer any hesitation in her movements. Kelly's revenge was quietly but steadily progressing. Nicole was officially informed by Brian that their engagement was broken, and upon seeing the amount claimed as compensation, she nearly fainted. Coincidentally, the amount was almost the same as the total she had fraudulently used on Kelly's card. Brian had added his own savings to the final gift he received from Kelly to make Nicole pay for her lies. In their brief conversation, he had stopped being just a victim and chose to take justice into his own hands. Cornered, Nicole and Tom resorted to their last means. They called relatives, spreading lies that Kelly had gone mad with old age and was trying to monopolize the inheritance, gathering allies. Their aim was to socially isolate Kelly and strip her of her capacity to manage her assets by declaring her unfit. Some distant relatives, unaware of the circumstances, began to believe their story. This news quickly reached the ears of lawyer John. He immediately contacted Kelly. Kelly, they have started taking action. They are preparing to file with the family court to question your mental state and appoint a guardian. I see. Just as I expected. Kelly's voice was surprisingly calm. The measures are already in place. John, please send notification letters to all relevant parties. We will hold a briefing session on the asset situation of Kelly Owen and recent family relations. The location can be your law firm's conference room. The date and time will be Saturday at 2 p.m., 1 week from now. Of course, make sure Nicole and Tom attend, and send the notices via special delivery. A briefing session, you say? Kelly, isn't that dangerous? That would mean playing on their turf. No, John. This is my turf. Just as a surgeon proves the legitimacy of their surgery at a conference, I will demonstrate before all the family how correct and logical my decisions were. Do we have all the necessary materials? John sighed deeply on the phone and then answered firmly, as if agreeing to an important operation. Yes, it's all perfectly prepared, just as you instructed. On the day of the briefing, in the largest conference room of John's law office, several relatives of the Owen family gathered with tense expressions. On one side of the room sat Nicole and Tom, trying to draw sympathy from others with victim-like expressions. Kelly entered the room together with John, right on time. Thank you all for gathering here, she said, skipping pleasantries and getting straight to the main point. The reason I have called you today is to clarify the truth, as my brother and sister have been spreading false information that significantly tarnishes my honor. Her words caused a stir in the room. Nicole began to act, proclaiming, Kelly, that's terrible, as she broke down in tears. First, let's address the claim that I unjustly took their assets. For this, we need to go back a bit in history. Kelly turned on the projector. What appeared on the screen was the estate division agreement of their deceased parents. As you know, our parents' estate was divided equally among the three of us siblings. However, the tuition for Nicole's graduate school and Tom's two failed businesses were all covered from my personal assets. Here are the transfer records and the promissory notes they signed. The total amount comes to about $500,000. As unwavering evidence continued to be displayed, the whispers among the relatives began to take on a tone of accusation. I have never once asked for repayment of these debts. It's because we are family. However, it seems they mistook my goodwill for a right. The screen switched, displaying Nicole's credit card statements. Logos of luxury brands and names of high-end restaurants lined up, with the total amount shown in red. These were used without my permission. And to top it off, my own sister held a wedding without even inviting me. The costs were all charged to my card. Kelly for the first time looked straight at Nicole. Nicole, you told our relatives that I wholeheartedly celebrated your marriage. Do you have a photo of me smiling next to you? If you do, please show it here today. Nicole's face turned completely white. She could no longer even cry. She had completely lost her escape route. Then Kelly struck the final blow. The conference room door opened, and Brian quietly walked in. Everyone, let me introduce you. This is Nicole's former fiancé, Brian Simpson. He also has something to share. Brian spoke calmly, sincerely recounting how he had been deceived by Nicole and how Kelly's honor had been tarnished. His words were irrefutable evidence. By the time the briefing came to an end, Nicole and Tom were exposed to the cold stares of their relatives and were completely isolated. Kelly's revenge, neither violent nor emotional, was perfectly accomplished through overwhelming truth. A week had passed since the judgment play known as the briefing. The air around Kelly resembled the calm and clear atmosphere after a storm had passed. One by one, her relatives contacted her with apologies and understanding. They too had been deceived for years by Nicole and Tom's clever lies. Kelly's world was regaining a healthy order as the false relationships were stripped away. She focused on her work at the clinic, enjoyed wine with Diane at night, and dedicated her weekends to gardening. It was the first peaceful time she had for herself in decades. One night, breaking that tranquility, the intercom at her home rang. On the monitor was the figure of Nicole, worn and unrecognizable. The high-end brand clothes lay hidden, replaced by a worn-out t-shirt and jeans. Her hair, once perfectly styled, was messily gathered, and her bare face appeared older than her years. Kelly silently observed this figure for a moment before quietly opening the front door. "What do you want?" Kelly's voice was as flat as a still lake. "Kelly," Nicole called out in a fragile voice. Her eyes held none of the former arrogance, only fear and confusion. "Please, let me go home." "Home? Your home shouldn't be here." Kelly intentionally confronted her with the words of the past. "Me and Brian are no longer together. I've been kicked out of the apartment, and now I'm sleeping on a friend's couch. I can't find a job. I have no credit, no trust. I have nothing left." Nicole broke down in tears, collapsing to the ground and trying to cling to Kelly's feet. "Help me, Kelly. I was wrong. It was all my fault. So please, don't abandon me." Her appearance was pitiful. However, Kelly's heart did not move at all. "Do you want help? I'll help you. However, there are conditions," Kelly said coldly. Nicole looked up as if she had seen a ray of hope. "Hey, I'll do anything. It's easy," Kelly continued. "First, the $50,000 you fraudulently used my card, and then the $200,000 I lent you for your graduate school tuition and living expenses. The $200,000 he took over when his brother Tom failed in business. A total of $450,000. Repay the amount in one lump sum plus the late damages recognized by the court. If you can do that, I'll have to think about what you mean by help." Nicole's face was stained with despair. Well, there's no way you have that kind of money. Kelly raised the corners of her mouth slightly. It was too cold to be called a smile, and it was a perfect declaration of victory. Did I not mention it? I've already quit being your guardian. I won't accept any apologies. Repairing our relationship is out of the question. From now on, you'll bear that debt and live on your own strength. That's the final lesson I will give you. A few days later, a letter arrived at Kelly. The sender was Tom. The letter, written in trembling letters, contained many pages of apologies for his past actions and words of regret for his foolishness. The company's management is declining, and the family is on the verge of collapse. He was not indifferent to money, but just begged for forgiveness as a person. Kelly read the letter to the end, and without writing a reply, she quietly lay down in the fire of the fireplace. Forgive, not unforgivable. They are no longer the people involved in Kelly's life. The seasons changed, and Kelly's garden was full of colorful flowers. Although she retired from the front line of cardiac surgery, she supervised young doctors at a local clinic several times a week. He found new joy in using his experience and knowledge for those who really needed it. Diane and I were now best friends more than family, and we were planning to travel around the world together. Lawyer John established the Owen Memorial Foundation, a scholarship foundation for economically disadvantaged medical students based on the Frozen Trust Fund. This was the right way to use the money that Kelly's parents would have truly wanted. On a sunny afternoon, Kelly was going through the list of scholarship candidates in the foundation's office. She smiled as she read the pure and passionate motivation statement of one of the girls. At that moment, she caught sight of an old family photo that had been sitting in the corner of the desk. It featured a young version of herself, little Nicole, and their parents. Quietly, she took the photo in her hands and placed it deep in the drawer. This was not a severance from the past, but rather a ritual for accepting everything, overcoming it, and stepping into the future. Parasites had disappeared from her life. What remained were true friends, a peaceful daily life built by her own hands, and complete mental and financial freedom, unthreatened by anyone. In the soft light coming through the window, Kelly Owen smiled wholeheartedly. As a surgeon, she had always pursued perfect operations. And in the most difficult operation of all, that of life, she had magnificently saved her own soul. The siege was over, and she had won. The greatest victory was to genuinely remember that she was worth more than what she could offer, and to have the courage to live according to that truth. Kelly's new life was nothing less than that brilliant proof.